Joining me right now, Democratic Congressman from Washington, Adam Smith. He is the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee. Welcome, sir. It's good to see you again. So the Biden administration tried to keep this war contained, right? But following these strikes on the Houthis, the U.S. is now engaged in something of a regional war, at least on the brink of one. Can this conflict be contained now?
Yes, I think it can. I mean, look, it's a continuous effort to try and contain it and make sure that it doesn't spread. And thus far, it has not spread. You don't have full-scale fighting in any of these other places, but it's dangerous. I mean, we have, Iranian-backed militias attacking U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. Hezbollah is, lobbing missiles occasionally from the north, and we've got what the Houthis are doing. Thus far, the president, I think, has done a good job of containing this. And that's part of the reasons for the strike against the Houthis, to not let them to continue to attack the shipping lanes with impunity in the hope that this will tamp down that behavior and reduce their ability to do it. It's going to be a really tough challenge to stop this from spreading further. But thus far, it has not spread into a wider regional full-scale war.
Let's revisit what Aaron was reporting there from the White House, because some fellow Democrats, including Progressive Caucus Chair Pramila Jayapal, and as you heard, and then also Congressman Ro Khanna can be added, and Republicans like Senator Mike Lee, they say that the president violated the Constitution by not asking Congress for approval before striking the Houthis. Is that valid? Should the president have brought this to Congress?
Well, two things. First of all, in terms of the authorities the president has, this is a very clear Article 2 authority. This is self-defense. And Article 2 says that the president has the right to act in self-defense to protect U.S. interests. The Houthis were attacking U.S. ships. Certainly they were attacking merchant vessels from a variety of different countries, but they were also attacking the U.S. military, and he responded specifically to those attacks. Now, I share some of the concerns that I know Congressman Khanna has expressed in the past about how presidents have widened that authority. There have been some strikes in the past that I felt were not justified by the self-defense doctrine, where he should have had to come to Congress. This isn't one of them. And I would also point out that the White House and the National Security Team has communicated with Congress. They've certainly communicated with my committee, with the Armed Services Committee and others about their plans and their feelings about what's going on in Yemen. But in this circumstances, it was self-defense. I don't believe that it required congressional authorization before he could go forward and make these strikes.
So can I ask, assuming more military action is on the horizon, when would the president need to get approval from Congress?
It's a case-by-case basis. That's a hypothetical going forward. And look, part of the problem here also, that I have to acknowledge is Congress is a difficult place to pass things.
Yeah.
If the Houthis are hitting our ships in the middle of the Red Sea, interrupting commerce, and we say to them, as soon as Congress passes something, we're going to deal with this. I don't think that's going to be particularly effective. So we also in Congress have to be clear about how we exercise our authority in a way that enables our country to carry out policy it needs to carry out.
Can I ask you, do you think if political pressure at all, pressure from both sides, by the way, was part of the calculus behind the strike for the president?
Absolutely not. In fact, the criticism you're hearing from Republicans, even as he's done what I think most, national security experts say he should have done, is, he should have done it sooner. Okay. And the president has been feeling this pressure. I mean, the Houthis started these attacks 2 months ago, roughly, almost 2 months ago. And there's been pressure from day one from a variety of sources that the president should act militarily. But what he did is he acted deliberately and intelligently. He didn't shoot first and ask questions later. He assessed the situation and was mindful of the fact that military action is a serious thing not to be taken lightly. I think he waited the appropriate amount of time, weighed the pros and cons, made sure of what he was doing, and then acted in the U.S. interest. So I think it was the exact right thing to do, and the timing was exactly right.
And we heard the president earlier saying that we are not in a de facto proxy war with Iran and that they do not want a war with us. Do U.S. and other allies' strikes on the Houthis, does it draw Iran into this conflict, even if they say they don't want war? And how much control, I'm curious, over Hamas and Houthis does Iran actually have?
Yeah, well, there's conflict and then there's conflict. It would be wrong to say that we're not in a conflict with Iran. I mean, obviously we are. Their proxies are shooting at us and we're shooting at them. But that's a good deal different than the full-scale war that we were engaged in Iraq and Afghanistan, as I think anybody would tell you. And that's what we are trying to avoid with these relatively low-level strikes, is to deter the actions without stumbling into a full-scale war. And to answer your question, at this point, Iran absolutely has a significant amount of control, certainly over the Houthis, but also, I think, over Hamas. This is part of a wider effort by Iran to destabilize the region and attack their adversaries, certainly the U.S. and Israel, but also a variety of Arab states as well. They've attacked Saudi Arabia. They've attacked the UAE. They're destabilizing Iraq. So, yes, this is definitely Iran that is driving this conflict.
Despite being out of time, let me quickly ask you about Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Does anyone have to be held to account for the fact that he did not share his whereabouts being hospitalized with the White House or others that he ought to have?
Yes, I think they have questions to answer as to whether or not anyone should be held to account. It depends on what the answers to those questions are. It is simply unacceptable that the president did not know that his Secretary of Defense was in the hospital for, I think it was like 2 or 3 days after he was there. That should not have happened. It should never happen again. We need to understand why it happened, and if people are responsible for that, then yes, accountability must be taken. But I think we need answers to those questions before we can definitively determine what that accountability looks like.
Okay, sounds like period and exclamation point from you, my friend. Thank you so much.